Okay, we're back today and we've got the kale salad finished, we've got our roasted carrots finished, and we're going to start making our Dijon rosemary salmon.
Yes.
All right. Well, wild salmon has a ton of omega-3 fats in it, which is incredibly anti-inflammatory. A lot of people are intimidated by fish because they think it's hard to cook. So talk us through your cooking process.
Well, I think the thing you have to remember about fish is that it cooks really, really quickly. This whole process isn't going to take us more than 5 or 6 minutes once we put it on the heat.
Something I do at home is that I don't like to take the scales off before I start cooking because they're kind of hard to cut off the fish. And so what I do is I bake it at a high temp, 450 for 5 minutes, and then I lower the temp, bake it 350 for another 10, and then the scales just slide off.
Typically, when I make this recipe, I don't use this kind of a skillet. I use a cast iron skillet, and that is because when we do flip it and put it in the oven, I keep it in the same pan so that the skin does get crispy, and I will eat the skin when it's done. But you don't have to do that. But one more point about the skin before we move on is that if you butcher the skin yourself or if you leave the skin on, it's a cheaper cut when you're at the market. Yeah, I mean, the less work that the butchers have to do, the less they charge you.
That is a fantastic point.
So,
absolutely.
For people that are intimidated with fish, this is such a simple recipe to follow, and it's delicious and flavorful. And using the cast iron, you get that great sear, and it locks in the flavor. So it's definitely still one of our go-tos.
all right, Kelsey, can you help us salt and pepper just like we did the carrots last time? So give us a nice even coat over the top.
Nice job.
Perfect. Excellent. That's done with the salt, and we'll move on to the pepper. Another tip about cooking fish, or anytime you're trying to get a good sear, is you really want the protein to be very dry. So unfortunately we don't have any paper towels to pat it, but just before we got here we did pat that off, so the top is very dry, and it'll be ready to sear off nicely in this pan. Because if there's moisture on top, you'll get a steaming effect and you'll lose your crust. So Eliza's going to help us with the rosemary because we'll get that prepped. And just pull it right down.
Nice.
So she's
Nice.
pinching that thick woody
Perfect.
stem in the middle
Nice
of her
job.
fingers and just pulling it right as Gerrit's pulling the
Yep.
other way.
We'll go skin side up
Yeah, we have
first.
a lot of it, so.
And get a sear
Nice
on
to
those. So the topping will be just a smear of some Dijon garlic or Dijon mustard here, and I like to keep a little bit of the grains in there because it adds a little extra crunch as well.
Great flavor.
A few cloves of garlic. I like to do about 1.5 to 2 cloves per fillet. And we have 2 sprigs of rosemary that we've chopped up here. You don't want to go too crazy on the rosemary because it's a really powerful herb. So you want to prep these 2 ingredients while the fish is searing. And you'll probably sear it on medium-high heat, which we have here, for roughly about 2 minutes to get a nice crust. Again, when you're cooking this fish, you can use olive oil or you can use avocado oil or any kind of other high smoke point oil, whichever you prefer.
Avocado oil can be heated to about 520 degrees. Refined avocado before it burns. It reaches its smoke point. Olive oil that's refined can go to about 420, and olive oil that is the extra virgin can go about 380 before it burns. And so trying to use the proper cooking oil with the proper temperature is one of the important tips to anti-inflammatory diets.
Okay, so it looks like this fish is about done. So we'll get in here and we'll flip them so that the thin side is down, and we'll turn off the heat, and we'll get our Dijon mustard. We'll just kind of put a little bit of a dab on top. You just want to make a nice thin coat throughout the whole fillet, because you don't want it too thick, you don't want it too thin. It will crust up a little bit in the oven. And then once that's coated, take a little bit of this rosemary Eliza helped us with, sprinkle that on top, just like that. And we'll do the same thing with the garlic, because when we get in the oven, the garlic will caramelize a little bit, and it'll take some of that spiciness out. And get it a little sweeter for us. It'll be really delicious. And we'll
Miss
go
that.
straight into the oven. And this is what it looks like when it's done. As you can
Absolutely
see,
gorgeous color on
some
that.
of the garlic has browned up a little bit and gotten sweet. The rosemary is crisped up a little, and you can see on the edges of the salmon how the mustard has gotten into a nice crust.
We are so excited to try this. And we wanted to say thank you both so much, Gerrit and Amy, for sharing
We
this
won't
with
give it.
us, because it is so incredibly helpful to have people like you come, and it really impresses the kids, it impresses our families, and knowing how much you believe in health and cooking just helps us to promote that message even more.
Awesome.
So thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having
Awesome.
us.
And two.
I know
Thank you
this
so
is going to be
much.
delicious because it smells incredible.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
And that skin just falls right off, and I'll save that skin for you.
Sounds good.
It's really good.
It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.